Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Not sure we'll get through it all, but we'll start off here with Psalm 121, verses 1 through 8. I look up toward the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord, the creator of heaven and earth. May he not allow your foot to slip. May your protector not sleep. Look, Israel's protector does not sleep or slumber. The Lord is your protector. The Lord is the shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, or the moon by night. The Lord will protect you from all harm. He will protect your life. The Lord will protect you in all you do, now and forevermore. I'm reminded of the previous psalm where, this is one of the Psalms of Ascent. And in the previous psalm, the psalmist complained about being with the warlike people of Kedar. And that inspires imagery of sand and blowing desert winds. But the psalmist here says that the sun will not harm you by day, or the moon by night. So, sounds like environmental protections. Anywho, from Guzik here. This is the second of the series of psalms, which are titled A Song of Ascents, as a song sung by travelers. This is perfectly relevant for the trust placed in God through the journey. David Livingstone, the famous missionary and explorer of the continent of Africa, read Psalm 121 and Psalm 135, which praises God for his sovereign rule over all things. As he worshipped with his father and sister before setting out for Africa in 1840, his mother-in-law, Mrs. Moffat, wrote him at Lignardi that Psalm 121 was always in her mind as she thought about and prayed for him. My little co-host is here now. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. The singer of the psalm looked to the hills, likely the distant hills of Jerusalem, as he traveled through the city to fulfill his pilgrimage. The singer is still far from the appointed place of worship, lifting his eyes toward the distant mountains. He is not far from Jehovah, however. In Jehovah's keeping, even though far from the center of external worship, the pilgrim realizes his safety. From Morgan. The point is wonderful. The singer understood that the group didn't need to arrive at Jerusalem before they came under God's protective care. He would watch over them on the journey. God is just as present in the journey as he is in the destination. There are two other suggestions of what was intended by this looking up to the hills, though they are less likely. Some suggest that this was a consideration of the high places where idolaters set their altars. Some suggest this was an anxious look to the hills, looking for danger and threats from the often present robbers and gangs. My help comes from the Lord. The traveler looked to Jerusalem as his goal, yet his trust was not in the city itself. Help would come from the God who made heaven and earth. The Creator would be his helper. The sole source of help comes from Yahweh, who, as Creator, has unlimited power. From Van Gemeren. What he is telling us is that his gaze did not stop when he looked upward to the hills, but that he looked beyond them to God, who made the mountains. From Boise. He will not allow your foot to be moved. God would help his people by establishing them in a firm place, allowing them to stand, and not allowing their foot to be moved. The foundation, God's infinite power and goodness, on which thou standest, cannot be moved, and whilst thou standest on this basis, thy foot cannot be moved. From Clark. Our feet shall move in progress, but they shall not be moved to their overthrow. From Spurgeon. For the Christian, this reminds us of the principles found in Ephesians 6, verse 11 and 13, that the believer is to find a place to stand, and this can only be done by looking to the Lord and trusting the one who will not allow your feet to be moved. The standing of the believer in Jesus is impressive. We stand in grace, in the gospel, in courage and strength, in faith, in Christian liberty, in Christian unity, in the Lord. He who keeps you. This is the first of 6 times in this short psalm that the Hebrew word shamar, translated keep and preserve, is used. The theme is that God will watch over his people as a watchman watches over the city or the party of travelers. The psalmist is so absorbed in the thought of his keeper that he barely names his dangers. With happy assurance of protection, he says over and over again the one word which is his amulet against foes and fears. 6 times in these few verses does the thought recur that Jehovah is the keeper of Israel, or of the single soul. From Maclaren. The divine being represents himself as a watchman who takes care of this city and its inhabitants during the night watches, and who is never overtaken with slumbering or sleepiness. From Clark. He who keeps you will not slumber. When we look to the Lord, we have confidence in the fact that God does not sleep. The idea is repeated in verse 4 for emphasis. God's watchful eye is always open, looking with love and care upon his people. In his confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Elijah mocked the idol prophets when Baal did not respond, saying of Baal, perhaps he is sleeping and must be awakened. We have the great comfort in knowing that he who keeps Israel shall neither sleep nor slumber. This promise was especially meaningful for the pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem. Their daily march and their nightly encampment will then be placed under the care of Jehovah, who will hold up their feet unwearied on the road and watch unslumbering over their repose. From Maclaren. From Spurgeon here. A poor woman, as the Eastern story has it, came to the Sultan one day and asked compensation for the loss of some property. How did you lose it? Said the monarch. I fell asleep, was the reply, and a robber entered my dwelling. Why did you fall asleep? I fell asleep because I believed that you were awake. The Sultan was so much delighted with the answer of the woman that he ordered her loss to be made up. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The brutal rays of the sun in the world of the Middle East could assault the traveler, such as the pilgrim on the way to one of Israel's feasts in Jerusalem. God promised care for the traveler, with a reference that goes back to the cloud by day that followed Israel in the wilderness from Egypt and shielded them from the sun. Similar promises are made in other verses, such as Isaiah 4:6 and 25:4. Psalm 91:1 is especially precious, with shade being the same word as shadow. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Your shade, both to refresh thee and keep thee from the burning heat of the sun, as it is expressed in the next verse, and to protect thee by his power from all thine enemies, for which reason God is often called a shadow in Scripture. From Poole. Nor the moon by night. Any superstitious fears that they may have had from the light of the moon were of no concern to those whom God protected. He would keep and preserve his people day and night. What the psalmist really means, though in figurative language, is that nothing, either of the day or the night, can harm us if God is keeping guard. God is our covering against every calamity. He is our shade against the visible perils of the day, as well as the hidden perils of the night. From Boise. God has not made a new sun or a fresh moon for his chosen. They exist under the same outward circumstances as others, but the power to smite is in their case removed from temporal agencies. Saints are enriched and not injured by the powers which govern the earth's condition. From Spurgeon. But let the Pope be the sun and the Emperor the moon, as the canonists called them, yet the sun shall not smite the church by day, nor the moon by night. Luther was at that same time excommunicated by the Pope and proscribed by the Emperor, yet died in his bed. From Trapp. Yeah. It doesn't matter what earthly constructs come against us. If God is on our side, then nothing can stand and harm us. The Lord shall preserve you from all evil. The singer had great confidence in God's protecting power. Evil men may come and afflict the child of God, but the Lord shall preserve your soul. All evil will be averted from him who has Jehovah for his keeper. Therefore, if any so-called evil ones, he may be sure that it is good. I'm not sure what McLaren is saying here. All evil will be averted from him who has Jehovah for his keeper. Therefore, if any so-called evil comes, just couldn't see, he may be sure that it is good with a veil on. Interesting. So, on the subject of good and evil, God works all things for the good of him and those who love him. So the idea here being that if a believer is in Christ, then it's all worked to the complex good for the believer. That is, good with a veil on. In the light of other scriptures, to be kept from all evil does not imply a cushioned life, but a well-armed one, from Kidner. He shall preserve your soul. Our soul is kept from the dominion of sin, the infection of error, the crush of despondency, the puffing up of pride, kept from the world, the flesh, and the devil, kept for holier and greater things, kept in the love of God, kept unto the eternal kingdom and glory, from Spurgeon. The Lord shall preserve. 3 times have we the phrase, Jehovah shall keep, as if the sacred Trinity thus sealed the word to make it sure. Ought not all our fears to be slain by such a threefold flight of arrows? What anxiety can survive this triple promise? The Lord shall preserve your going out and your coming in. The promise is comprehensive. God's people may trust in his preserving power for all of one's activity, going out and coming in, and at all times, from this time forth, and ever, even forevermore. When we go out in youth to begin life, and come in at the end to die, we shall experience the same keeping. Our exits and our entrances are under one protection, from Spurgeon. Your going out and your coming in is not only a way of saying everything. In closer detail, it draws attention to one's ventures and enterprises, and to the home which remains one's base, again to pilgrimage and return. He has not led me so tenderly, thus far, to forsake me at the very gate of heaven. From Adoniram Judson. Carrying on, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. A popular proverb. God especially doesn't like pride in us. If we're proud, we make ourselves unteachable, and the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You can see when Jesus came, the Pharisees were those that received the greatest condemnation from him, those stuck up and haughty and sufficient in themselves. God is opposed to the proud, and the proud man or woman is an abomination to God. With God so set against the proud, no wonder that pride goes before destruction. The special event of pride is that it opposes the first principle of wisdom, the fear of the Lord, and the 2 great commandments, from Kidner. That is, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. When we have an inflated view of self, when we're proud, we've rejected essentially what God says about us, our place with him. Not that our place with him is especially lowly. On the contrary, it's very high, being sons and heirs of Christ. But when we elevate ourselves in the sight of God, we reject what God does for us, and think our own works are sufficient for whatever reason, which is not good. And concerning the second, to love our neighbor as ourself, We, when we're proud, tend to think of ourselves better than other people and think of our neighbor as lower than us, which goes against the second commandment there. A bulging wall is near downfall. Swelling is a dangerous symptom in the body. So is pride in the soul, from Trap. So far as any man is proud, he is kin to the devil, and a stranger to God and to himself, from Baxter. And a haughty spirit before a fall. One of the many ways that pride is evident is in a haughty spirit, an attitude that communicates superiority over other people. Those who think themselves higher than others are ready to fall under the fair judgment of God. The proverb gives the strong impression of saying the same thing twice. In this way, its truth is underscored and clarified. The proud are defined more precisely as the haughty in spirit, from Walt. Carrying on, 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 21 through 23, verse 23. The Lord repaid me for my godly deeds. He rewarded me for my blameless behavior, for I have obeyed the Lord's commandments. I have not rebelled against my God, for I am aware of all his regulations, and I do not reject his rules. I was blameless before him. I kept myself from sinning. The Lord rewarded me for my godly deeds. He took notice of my blameless behavior. You prove to be loyal to one who is faithful. You prove to be trustworthy to one who is innocent. You prove to be reliable to one who is blameless. But you prove to be deceptive to one who is perverse. You deliver oppressed people, but you watch the proud and bring them down. Indeed, you are my lamp, O Lord. The Lord illumines the darkness around me. Indeed, with your help, I can charge against an army. By my God's power, I can jump over a wall. The one true God acts in a faithful manner. The Lord's promise is reliable. He is a shield to all who take shelter in him. Indeed, who is God besides the Lord? Who is a protector besides our God? The one true God is my mighty refuge. He removes the obstacles in my way. He gives me the agility of a deer. He enables me to negotiate the rugged terrain. He trains my hands for battle. My arms can bend even the strongest bow. You give me your protective shield. Your willingness to help enables me to prevail. You widen my path. My feet do not slip. I chase my enemies and destroy them. I do not turn back until I wipe them out. I wipe them out and beat them to death. They cannot get up. They fall at my feet. You give me strength for battle. You make my foes kneel before me. You make my enemies retreat. I destroy those who hate me. They cry out, but there is no one to help them. They cry out to the Lord, but he does not answer them. I grind them as fine as the dust of the ground. I crush them and stomp on them like clay in the streets. You rescue me from a hostile army. You preserve me as the leader of nations. People over whom I had no authority are now my subjects. Foreigners are powerless before me. When they hear of my exploits, they submit to me. Foreigners lose their courage. They shake with fear as they leave their strongholds. The Lord is alive. My protector is praiseworthy. The God who delivers me is exalted as king. The one true God completely vindicates me. He makes nations submit to me. He delivers me from my enemies. You snatch me away from those who attack me. You rescue me from violent men. So I will give you thanks, O Lord, before the nations. I will sing praises to you. He gives his chosen king magnificent victories. He is faithful to his chosen ruler, to David and to his descendants forever. These are the final words of David, the oracle of David, son of Jesse, the oracle of the man raised up as the ruler, chosen by the God of Jacob, Israel's beloved singer of songs. The Lord's Spirit spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The protector of Israel spoke to me. The one who rules fairly among men, the one who rules in the fear of God, is like the light of morning when the sun comes, a morning in which there are no clouds. He is like the brightness after rain that produces grass from the earth. My dynasty is approved by God, for he has made a perpetual covenant with me. Arranged in all its particulars and secured, he always delivers me and brings all I desire to fruition. But evil people are like thorns. All of them are tossed away, for they cannot be held in the hand. The one who touches them must use an iron instrument or the wooden shaft of a spear. They are completely burned up right where they lie. These are the names of David's warriors. Josheb-Basshebeth, a Tachemonite, was head of the officers. He killed 800 men with his spear in one battle. Next in command was Eleazar, son of Dodo, the son of Ahohi. He was one of the 3 warriors who were with David when they defeated the Philistines, who were assembled there for battle, when the men of Israel retreated. He stood his ground and fought the Philistines until his hand grew so tired that it seemed stuck to his sword. The Lord gave a great victory on that day. When the army returned to him, the only thing left to do was to plunder the corpses. Next in command was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. When the Philistines assembled at Lehi, where there happened to be an area of a field that was full of lentils, the army retreated before the Philistines. But he made a stand in the middle of that area. He defended it and defeated the Philistines. The Lord gave them a great victory. At the time of the harvest, 3 of the 30 leaders went down to David at the cave of Adullam. A band of Philistines was camped in the valley of Rephaim. David was in the stronghold at the same time, while a Philistine garrison was in Bethlehem. David was thirsty and said, "How I wish someone would give me some water to drink from the cistern in Bethlehem near the gate." So the 3 elite warriors broke through the Philistine forces and drew some water from the cistern in Bethlehem near the gate. They carried it back to David, but he refused to drink it. He poured it out as a drink offering to the Lord and said, "O Lord, I will not do this. It is equivalent to the blood of the men who risked their lives by going." So he refused to drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 elite warriors. Abishai, son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, was head of the 3. He killed 300 men with his spear and gained fame among the 3. From the 3 he was given honor, and he became their officer, even though he was not one of the 3. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was a brave warrior from Kebzeel, who performed great exploits. He struck down the 2 sons of Ariel of Moab. He also went down and killed a lion in a cistern on a snowy day. He also killed an impressive-looking Egyptian. The Egyptian wielded a spear, while Benaiah attacked him with a club. He grabbed the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, who gained fame among the 3 elite warriors. He received honor from the 30 warriors, though he was not one of the 3 elite warriors. David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Yeah, so you have here, previous to this, David singing a song to the Lord, and this being recorded as David's last words, exalting the Lord and praising him for his protection and for causing him to succeed, and for the love that he's shown David. And subsequent to that, you have a description of the company of David, of these mighty men that David had in his employ, I suppose, who performed crazy feats of strength and were definitely supported by God. According to the cleanness of my hands. These words are one reason why many believe David could only sing the psalm before his sin with Bathsheba, yet the text seems to indicate that David sang the song toward the end of his days. We might say that David simply believed what the prophet Nathan told him in 2 Samuel 12:13. The Lord also has put away your sin. David knew he was a forgiven man, and that the cleanness of his hands was because God cleansed them, not because they had never been dirty. If we were to remind David of his sin with Bathsheba, he would claim it as an illustration and a proof of this principle, since he suffered in a variety of ways as a consequence of that great sin. But even though that happened, just as similar transgressions are committed by us all, on the whole, he was nevertheless a man after God's own heart, and was greatly blessed by God. From Boise. I have kept the ways of the Lord. I was also blameless before him. David isn't claiming sinless perfection. He spoke of his general righteousness, and of his righteousness as it contrasted with the wickedness of his enemies. Before God, the man after God's own heart was a humble sinner, but before his slanderers, he could with unblushing face speak of the cleanness of his hands and the righteousness of his life. From Spurgeon. We can come to God in prayer with the same claim, but not on the basis of our own righteousness, but the righteousness we have received in Jesus. I kept myself from my iniquity. Some think this is arrogance or pride, or on David's part. Spurgeon quotes one commentator who wrote, "Kept himself, who made man his own keeper." Yet we know there is certainly a sense in which we must keep ourselves from sin, even as Paul spoke of a man cleansing himself for God's glory and for greater service. It reminds me of Paul, how he could claim sinlessness in front of his enemies. And I'm also reminded of Romans 4, which quotes a psalm, I'm not sure which one, but it says, "Blessed is the man whose sin is forgiven, whose lawless acts are remembered no longer." And those two things, the sin and the lawless acts, constitute both sin committed unintentionally and sin committed intentionally. And David exults in being forgiven from both. Yeah. With the merciful, you will show yourself merciful. Jesus discussed this principle in the Sermon on the Mount, but from the perspective of man instead of from God. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. In these words, we have revealed the principles of relationship between God and man. God is to man what man is to God, from Morgan. David didn't only sing about this principle. He also lived and benefited from it. God showed David great mercy because he showed great mercy to others, like Saul and Shimei. Note that even the merciful need mercy. No amount of generosity to the poor or forgiveness to enemies can set us beyond the need for mercy. From Spurgeon. With the devious, you show yourself shrewd. Translators have trouble with this sentence because it communicates a difficult concept. It's easy to say that if a man is pure towards God, then God will be pure towards him. But you can't say that if a man is wicked toward God, then God will be wicked towards him, because God can't do anything wicked. Let no man say when he is tempted, "I am being tempted by God," for God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself is tempted by no one, tempts no one. It's been too long. But anyway, that's James. David expresses the second half of the parallel by a somewhat ambiguous word, the root meaning of which is twisted. The verse actually says, "To the twisted, you will show yourself twisted." The idea seems to be that if a person insists in going devious ways in his dealings with God, God will outwit him, as that man deserves. From Boise. I think also it can be that the perverse man has a bad idea of what the world is like, being twisted. But God won't fit into that framework. So, to the twisted, they don't understand what God's like, and so come up with twisted reasons for his behavior. Yeah, something like that. You will save the humble people, but your eyes are on the haughty, that you may bring them down. David proclaims his confidence in the principle repeated in Proverbs 3:34, James 4:6, and 1 Peter 5:5. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. There's something in true humility that prompts the grace and mercy of God, and there's something in pride and haughtiness that prompts his resistance and displeasure. Humility isn't necessarily a low opinion of self. It is a combination of accurate opinion of self and simple self-forgetfulness. Humility is other-centered, not self-centered. I think with things like negative self-talk or excessive shame and self-condemnation, we actually have a higher view of ourselves and our sin than we ought. Thinking ourselves too bad, beyond the reach of forgiveness, beyond the reach of God, which is also a lie. The first lie being the lie of pride, which exalts us higher than other people. The Lord shall enlighten my darkness. When God met David's need, he first brought light. Great strength and skill don't help much at all if we can't see in the midst of the struggle. By you I can run against a troop. By my God I can leap over a wall. When God met David's need, he brought strength. One man should not be able to battle a troop, nor should he be able to leap over a wall protecting a city. David knew the principle of Ephesians 6:10, long before Paul penned the words, "Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." God has a resource of power, his might, that he makes available to us by faith. We don't have to be strong in our might, but we can be strong in his might. Anyhow, I think I will end it there and pick it up next time. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great day.